Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. EKSanford from Tennessee State University, and he's talking about the impact of social structures on voting patterns, giving us quite a bit of information in reference to the importance of social structures and social institutions. And so, Dr. Sanford, let's see if we can pick up where we left off the last time, and just give you free rein to speak to some of the issues that we're dealing with this morning.
Okay. I'm sure all of our audience, and every year, July the 4th, we always have a great celebration of the Declarations of Independence, where the quote was, "We with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And we all felt that we had that in 1776. But when you look at it historically, you're talking about 176 years of chattel enslavement up to that time of the Declaration of Independence. And when they talked about we the people, it didn't have anything to do with that group of people who were enslaved. So when that whole notion of the truths that all men are created equal, they weren't talking about that group of enslaved people, nor women that were there, but those property owners that had moved from other countries to here. So I want to try to bring that into focus to say by 1863, with the Emancipation Proclamation, the Civil War is over in 1865. Then the 13th Amendment that freed that group of people over 244 years of enslavement. 14th Amendment gave citizenship, and then the 15th Amendment to our topic today was the right to vote. But given that freedom, and given that citizenship, and given that right to vote, another 100 years almost goes by with 81 years of Jim Crow laws that prevented people from actually exercising their constitutional rights. And so many people today, I want us to stress today on the program, that it is a privilege and an obligation for us to participate in the process of bringing about change. And we just so happen to be within a particular year of voting for the next president of the United States, as well as other people out the country. And it's important for everybody to be registered to vote and to vote. Because there were certain time periods where people had to fight. When Dr. Martin Luther King wrote one of his speeches in 1965, he said 100 years later, from 1865, with that constitutional right to vote, that people still did not have the right. So today we have to know that we have to be a part of that process and to do everything that we can do to go out and vote.
Especially, Dr. Sanford, when you recognize that even though we do have the right to vote everywhere, that there are still conspiracies and people who are banding together in order to keep people from exercising the right to vote. Instead of trying to encourage people to vote, they are trying to keep people away from the suffrage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're in certain areas, they've gotten very strategic in doing it by possibly bringing certain neighborhoods into other neighborhoods so they know if people do vote that their vote will not be a real count in the entire process, so that they cannot win that particular district. So that has been one of the strategic things that have been going on. And also, people just need to get fired up and wanting to vote as they turn 18 years old, 19 years old, and 20 years old. There could be a large amount of apathy that is within our culture. One of those social structures I talked about was mass media, postmodernist age of using and texting and Facebook, and you feel that you're connected that way and not connected to the society as a citizen. So we need to be very conscious and aware that we need to be educated, need parents to be involved, the institution of religion to be involved, so people will be aware and have the knowledge and the power to know they need to go and fulfill that obligation as well as that privilege. Because so many people struggled and died for the right to vote. And now, there have been many films that have been out there. If you're in undergraduate school or in history classes, you know of that struggle of people being discriminated against. Jim Crow laws asking people to read, and if they couldn't, they didn't have the right, and they should have had the right. Other ways of just preventing people. They were called Jim Crow laws that prevented people. So now you fast forward to today, and if young people from 18 to 35 years old, they should, and particularly African American or any other minority group or immigrant group, should feel a strong obligation to take that privilege that people had to die for as being a citizen and to vote. So I really encourage that. But I also want to encourage people to be a good educated person and not to fall into the rhetoric that can be stated sometimes, because sometimes you don't know. Educated people will use informed information to encourage people to vote a certain way. So we need to be very, very aware of what the issues are. What proposals are they putting on the table that are really going to help that community in a certain way? Who has the background and the experience of doing those things to be able to do it? Often I use the example because someone popular might want to do something, but would you want a surgeon that hasn't had a high percentage of success in doing their job to do it just because you have an intern that's been doing it as well, or someone that hasn't had it? I think you would want someone that has been out there, been doing it, and move away from all of the little nuances of personal things that are brought up by attacks. But you have to be very strategic in understanding those observations about who is the best and qualified person for the position.
And who can, in a real sense, achieve some of the things that they are talking about being able to achieve. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, that's a very important point.
And so, in a real sense, Dr. Sanford, what you're saying, and I think we've said it time and time again, is that the suffrage is so important that those individuals who will counsel other folks not to participate, who they themselves might not participate, really are doing a disservice and helping to undermine things. Is that what we're saying?
That's exactly what we're saying. Because if you're not a part of the solution, then you're being a part of the problem. So it's very important that people understand that. For instance, when you look at the disparities in African American incarceration rates, the reason I have the topic of social structure, law, politics, government, economics, family, the breakdown in the family, the breakdown in economics, breakdown in religion, you find more people disproportionate in African American males being in prison. So you have to have someone when you're voting that's aware of those issues, that they got a plan of action to try to assist in those, that can see that there's some ill thoughts with someone who shoots someone that might be doing something illegal, but then to shoot them 15 more times after they're already down, that someone understands the subliminal nature of racism in the subconscious of people that might do that, and to be able to say something needs to be done about it. To look at women and, for instance, politically speaking, you're voting to say equal rights there as well as for other minorities, equal pay, better pay for people to have a better quality of life. Because if you have low economics, breakup in family, lacking in religion, no medical care, then you're going to have a hard time of it in comparison to those that have those things. And those that have those things need to have a sensitivity to those who don't. And those who don't need to be voting and know they need to vote for people that are going to be sensitive to their
Okay, so what we'll
plight.
do, we'll take this final commercial break, and then we'll be back with our audience following this short commercial break.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So we got 10 more minutes. And,
Okay, so this is the closing right now?
Yeah, this is the
All right.
last segment, 10 minutes. So you've given us some excellent information. You always do.
I appreciate it.
People just